What's good, everybody? This is 100 Beast Kenshi, here today to talk about One Piece, and specifically Luffy versus Katakuri and the voice of all things. Now, chapter 891 of One Piece is due to drop on the 12th of January, so we can expect to see the scanlations sometime later this week, Thursday or Friday. So before that chapter drops, there is one topic I wanted to talk about, because I can see when we go back to that chapter that it's likely going to be returning to Luffy versus Katakuri. Now, when it comes to that battle, I think we all know that at present it seems as if Luffy is completely outmatched at the moment. So first of all, I want to talk about the differences between Luffy and Katakuri, their strengths, weaknesses, and the potential way that this battle could go. Firstly, let's start with Charlotte Katakuri. So Katakuri is one of the strongest characters that we've seen in the series so far, barring the Yonko and the Admirals. So Yonko, commander of the Big Mom Pirates. Now, Katakuri displays incredible mastery of Devil Fruit ability and of Haki. Some of the strongest Haki that we've seen in the story so far. He can literally see the future with his mastery of Ken Bonshoku no Haki. This is something that we've not yet come across with anyone in the story yet. And Luffy's biggest problem when facing Katakuri at the moment is his inability to land a strike against Katakuri, because as we know, using Ken Bonshoku no Haki and his mastery of his Devil Fruit, he's able to see where the punches are going to land on his body and move his real body using his Mochi Fruit, so that Luffy, when he strikes him, he's only able to strike the Mochi and not hit Katakuri's body. As well as this high degree of Ken Bonshoku no Haki, Katakuri also utilizes a high degree of armament Haki, Busou no Haki, which is unlike anything that we've seen so far in the story. And we've already seen that this type of Haki that he's using is already overwhelming even Gear 4th Luffy. Although the technique being used to overwhelm Gear 4th is an awakening technique, where he uses the Cosmic Donut to make punches out of thin air that are literally devastating Gear 4th. Coupled with the ability to see the future, Gear 4th doesn't seem to have a chance. But we did see after the Merienda, when Katakuri was somewhat flustered after being seen with his mouth wide open, that Luffy was able to land a strike because he was unfocused. He wasn't focused enough to use his Ken Bonshoku Haki, his high degree of Ken Bonshoku no Haki, to see the future, to see where Gear 4th was going to land in these strikes. However, he quickly recovered and he was able to counter Gear 4th when he managed to calm down and once again get back into the rhythm of the battle with Luffy. So at the end of that exchange, Luffy had to run away because, as we all know, he runs out of Haki after using Gear 4 for a specific amount of time, and then he becomes vulnerable and is unable to continue in the battle in Gear 4 form. So one of the things I want to talk about today is the possibility of a power-up for Luffy to be able to combat Katakuri, and specifically this technique, the high degree of Ken Bonshoku no Haki. Because as we saw with Gear 4th, he is able to damage Kat. He is able to damage him if he can land a strike on him. So if he's able to land strikes in rapid succession, in continuous succession, then he should be able to defeat this opponent. Now, let's talk about what we know about Luffy at the moment. His current ability, strength, techniques, and so forth. Now, Luffy, just for a brief recap, he's been training since he was a kid. Since he lived in the mountains with Dada Ace and Sabo, he has been literally training to become a pirate, to become the greatest pirate in the world, to become the Pirate King. Now, given all of this training from such a young age, we've already seen that Luffy is a monster when it comes to fighting. When it comes to strength alone, you know, he was able to combat haki users without knowing haki. But the ability to combat these haki users came with the advent of Gear Second that we saw in NES Lobby. Now, Gear Second is an extremely powerful technique when you consider the fact that he's able to move faster than haki users can perceive. And haki users, from a basic standpoint, if you're able to utilize Ken Bonshoku no Haki, you're able to some degree, see the future or to see what your opponent is about to do next. So Gear Second is a very good technique to combat haki users, and specifically Ken Bonshoku no Haki. Now, when it comes to Katakuri, his higher degree of Ken Bonshoku no Haki literally negates Gear Second simply because he can see farther into the future than a basic haki user can. So regardless of how fast Luffy moves or dodges, Katakuri knows exactly where he's going to be and simply attacks there. The other techniques that Luffy has at his disposal is Gear Third, right here, where he blows up his arms or legs or parts of his body through his bones, and he basically makes a giant fist so that he can punch like a giant. And using this technique, he can deliver a much more powerful blow to an enemy. The drawback of this technique, however, even though he has overcome the initial drawback of becoming smaller after using the technique, the drawback at this point in the new world is that this technique is far too slow to use in battle against a high level opponent who is able to move at speed, as we saw with Doflamingo in that battle. The next technique above Gear Third is obviously Gear Fourth, and Gear Fourth seemingly is Luffy's top ability at the moment. Gear Fourth increases his strength, speed and durability many times over, which enables him to fight against these top tier individuals. Now, what Gear Fourth doesn't have is mastery of Ken Bonshoku no Haki to the degree of someone like Katakuri. So regardless of the power that this ability can deliver, if he's unable to strike his opponent, it's essentially useless at this point. So Luffy needs to increase his Haki to some degree in order to fight against Katakuri. Now, those are the abilities that Luffy has displayed so far. What I wanted to talk about, the meat and potatoes of this video, is an ability that we haven't had much discussion on in the manga or in the community for that matter, simply because there's not very much information on it. This technique is the voice of all things. Now, what we know about the voice of all things is that not very many people in the story of One Piece are able to utilize this ability, or in fact have this ability. The only people that we know that have this technique are Monkey D. Luffy, Gold D. Roger, Kozuki Oden, and Kozuki Momonosuke. There is one thing I want to talk about when it comes to Kozuki Oden and Momonosuke. We know that they displayed the voice of all things when they were on the back of Zou. And Zou is a creature that is intrinsically connected to Wano country and also the bloodline of the Kozuki clan. What I would suggest here is that Oden and Momonosuke's ability to hear the voice of Zunisha or Zou, perhaps it comes from the lineage factor, their bloodline of being part of the Kozuki clan. That's what enables them to hear Zou. We don't know for a fact that Momonosuke and Oden could hear the voice of all things in the same vein as Roger and Monkey D. Luffy. Roger and Luffy, they could hear the voice of Zunisha because they can hear the voice of all things. But we don't know this for certain when it comes to Momonosuke and Kozuki Oden. That's something that I think we might find out a bit more of when we get to Wano country. Now, when it comes to the ability, the voice of all things, what we've seen thus far from Roger and Luffy, they're able to hear the voice of the Sea Kings. When Luffy was 10,000 meters below the sea, before he could destroy the Noah, the Sea Kings captured the ship, and at that moment Luffy heard their voice. Now, he didn't know where this voice was coming from, and there's no telling if he actually knows that it was the Sea Kings that he was hearing at that time, because there's no one else around who can corroborate what was happening with Luffy at the time or what he was able to hear. At the same time, we did see a flashback with Roger where Roger was traveling to the Fishman Island deep beneath the sea. And he himself could also hear the voice of the Sea Kings. The other place that we've heard of the voice of all things, a bit further back in the story actually, on Sky Island, we saw that Raja was able to inscribe onto the golden poneglyph, "I have come here and I will lead these words to the end." Now Raja wasn't able to read the poneglyph. The reason he was able to inscribe on the poneglyph was because he was able to hear the voice of all things, and he was able to hear the words that were written or inscribed on the obelisk. The final place that we've seen the voice of all things manifest was, of course, on Zunisha, when it was being attacked by Jack the Drought. Luffy and Momonosuke heard the voice of the elephant crying out for help. What I want to touch on in this video is how can this ability be used by a character such as Monkey D. Luffy, and also how was it used by Goldie Raja. Now we know that the ability can be used to perceive the unheard voices of both objects and creatures in the One Piece world, but is it possible that this ability could also be used in battle? The discussion that I want to raise is, could it be possible that the voice of all things could be utilized in a similar way to Ken Bonshoku no Haki? And also, could it be enhanced through mastery of Haki itself? Again, we don't know the abilities of Raja, we don't know how far his mastery of Haki goes, but I think it's pretty safe to say that he pretty much mastered Haki to a high degree, given what we've seen from Rayleigh, who was the first mate of the Raja pirates. What I want to suggest in this video is Luffy is going to attempt to increase his mastery of Ken Bonshoku no Haki during this fight with Katakuri, and this is based on what he learned from Rayleigh during his training on Ruskaina. Rayleigh said to Luffy, "I have taught you the basics, but the flower of Haki blooms only in the fires of extreme combat," or something along those lines. I'm ad-libbing a little bit. So Luffy is going to attempt in this battle to gain an additional mastery of Ken Bonshoku no Haki in order to counter Katakuri's own ability to see the future. What I would suggest is, what if in his attempt to increase his mastery of Ken Bonshoku no Haki, Luffy inadvertently hears the voice of all things? So instead of being able to see the future during this battle with Katakuri, he becomes able to hear the voice of Katakuri himself. So when Katakuri tries to move his body away from the blows that Monkey D. Luffy throws at him, Luffy would hear where his body is, and rather than striking the mochi, he would strike his real body and thus gain an edge over Katakuri and gain a means to defeat the 1 billion berry bounty pirate, Charlotte Katakuri. This is a very interesting topic for me. We haven't seen very much on the voice of all things, and it is one thing that immediately caught my interest the first time we saw or heard anything of it, which was back in Sky Island, I believe, when they came across the golden poneglyph that Raja had inscribed upon. So the question is here, would it be possible for the voice of all things to be an ability that could be used in a combat situation? And if so, how would that ability manifest itself versus someone like Katakuri, or even an admiral or a higher degree of opponent who is able to utilize high degrees of Ken Bonshoku no Haki? So if you think this is an interesting topic, please definitely leave a comment down below in the comment section. Like this video, subscribe, because as you can see, I'm new to YouTube. I'm not new to One Piece, but I'm new to YouTube and I could use a few subscribers. So please subscribe, because I will be bringing more One Piece content every week. I will be reviewing the manga. I'll also be bringing a few other interesting videos to the table, a few other points that I've been thinking about during my time reading the story. Also, I will be doing a top 30 strongest list, just because Brago the Ace and the BDA Pirates, you know, they've had the top 30 list. King of Lightning's brought out his top 30. Aokiji over Akainu? That did interest me, because what if Aokiji actually decided that he didn't want to be fleet commander? Maybe they came to some kind of agreement. Who knows? I found it quite an interesting stream. It took me about 5 days, but I actually watched the entire 15-hour stream. So that was a feat in itself. So props to me for that. And also, you know, props to the BDA Pirates and
Brago the Ace for their content. It is something that I enjoy from a week-to-week basis. And also props to the other One Piece YouTubers that are out there. The Reverie is about to happen this week. Reverie number 3. King of Lightning just posted his video today, which is probably yesterday, depending on when I decide to upload this video, or when I'm able to. So big shout out to the Yonko in the community and the worst generation Shichibukai, I guess. I don't know where I would fit in there. I'll just be a rogue element at the moment. 100 Beast Kenshi. Another question I think I'll just throw in at the end of this video is, my top YouTubers when it comes to One Piece. King of Lightning at number 1, Rogers Base number 2, and Joy Boy Theories at number 3. All 3 of them regarded as the Yonko. Now, the 4th spot for the Yonko, I'm not sure exactly who I would put on that spot. You have Tekken, Sawyer Mage, and Forever World. If we're talking about subscribers, I think it would be Forever World, Sawyer Mage coming second. Who knows? Let me know in the comment section who you think is the 4th Yonko. That's something I'm interested in as well, to see who you guys will put in that category. I guess maybe I'll throw Forever World in there as number 4, as Big Mom. Yeah, shouts out to the major YouTubers. The Reverie, 14th of January at 9 PM in the UK. Yonko Productions for always bringing the big news. This is big news. Yeah, that's going to be the end of the video for today. I will be back with more One Piece greatness, with more of the 100 Beast Kenshi. And until next time, a sword slash to the back is a true shame to a sword.